from Africa and West Africa, then it's good afternoon to you, especially. To those in China, good evening, and great to actually be with you today. So I guess what I'll do is I would share my screen and talk a little bit about the topic of today. If I can, I think I need the host to enable me to share my screen. Is that Victoria or Tosi?
Yeah, Victoria. Victoria, please, are you on? Able to enable him to share?
Yes, thank you. It's done now.
It's enabled. Sorry, I was muted. It's enabled.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. So I will just expand on this and then go through. Just to confirm, though, I'd like to confirm if everyone can see my screen.
Beautifully.
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Okay. So again, just thanks again to all the organizers, particularly OAD, for inviting me to actually speak at this event. So I would like it to be interactive. So I'll just do a short presentation, talk briefly, and then I think I'll probably spend more time on the Q&A session, if that's okay with everyone. So what I do, I'll provide some kind of like historical perspective and use Stanford University as a case study. I'll also talk about, why universities need investment management companies. And then I'm going to kind of like take an overview of, turning academic ideas into ventures. And it's all linked, 1, 2, and 3 are all linked together. I'll talk briefly about GetFundedAfrica. And as I said, we'll spend more time in the Q&A session. So in terms of the historical perspective, let me talk about a gentleman. He's late now, died in the 90s, I believe, or 80s. A man called Frederick Terman. And some of you may or may not have heard of him. Frederick Terman was appointed the provost of Stanford University in 1965. During his tenure, Terman actually encouraged students to form their own companies, and he personally invested in many of them.
I wanted to open the window for you so that you will see.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so I think there was some background noise there. So I'll just continue. So during Terman's time, he encouraged students to actually form their companies, and he invested in many of them. Some of the companies that he invested in include, there are several others, Litton Industries, which is a big billion-dollar company. But I guess probably one of the most popular ones is what we all today know as Hewlett-Packard or HP. Coincidentally, I'm currently using a HP laptop whilst talking to you all. So literally, part of Terman's investments are paying off decades later. And I'll come to something relating to this when I'm talking about endowments later on. So essentially, for Terman, his efforts to create a mutual relationship between Stanford and tech companies significantly contributed to the growth of Silicon Valley. Most of you may know or have heard about Silicon Valley. It's the world's largest venture capital hub, and today accounts for about a third of investments into ventures. About a third of investment into ventures comes from Silicon Valley. It's also known as the home of innovation, and lots of countries and communities have even tried to duplicate the model that was used to develop Silicon Valley. Now, Terman's approach and all the things that he did at the time, today, we kind of like see Silicon Valley as this big place, but at the time, there was nothing, actually zero. And years later, before he died, Frederick Terman had this particular quote where he said, and I'll bring it up. He said, when we set out to create a community of technical scholars in Silicon Valley, there wasn't much here, and the rest of the world looked very big. Now, the rest of the world is actually here. So essentially, this vision of making Stanford University, which was it wasn't any name university at that point in time, but this vision of actually creating a mutual relationship between Stanford University and tech companies significantly contributed to the growth of Silicon Valley, such that this is now, it's no longer that Silicon Valley is trying to connect to the rest of the world. It's literally that the rest of the world is in Silicon Valley. Now, here's the effect of Terman's approach, still looking historically. It gave rise to a new approach in academic research. So rather than academic research being driven by labs or agendas of research agencies, or even product-driven research, Terman actually focused more on customers' demands and customers' needs. So even though it was an academic institution, he made sure that the research that was done was also customer-driven, things that would affect how people live and things that would affect how people are willing to consume things. In addition, we say that Terman is described as the first advocate for the customer development method. And I'll talk a little bit about the customer development method when I'm talking about turning academic ideas into ventures using a small chart. And so basically, he advocated this customer development method. And so when universities like Stanford converted to a customer-driven entrepreneurial culture, other universities such as UCLA, Berkeley, continue to focus on big science and national laboratory kind of topics, so to say. Although today UCLA, and my brother went there, so I will not say anything bad about them, is a top university, you would agree with me that Stanford University is regarded as a notch higher or a higher level university. And please, anyone that went to UCLA, please do not eat me up. Forgive me in advance. But, you know, Stanford University does carry certain uniqueness above UCLA because of this. They are focused more on customer development method. Now, having said that, I should say that this is actually this focus on a customer-led method or customer-led approach is what ultimately made Stanford University, and by extension Silicon Valley, such a magnet for venture capital firms. Because so many companies and so many people, remember in the beginning I said that Frederick Terman encouraged his students to register businesses. And because they registered businesses, these businesses were able to attract funding. And so more and more venture capitalists realized that there was a big ecosystem of startups in a particular location, and that drew them to that place. Many settled there. And just as I mentioned, today, Silicon Valley actually accounts for a third of global venture capital. So we can see how, starting from an academic perspective, it's a method was used to focus on the customer. And then by extension, an ecosystem was created around all of these things. Now, I've used this as a case study and a historical perspective, just to kind of like lay the groundwork for further discussion. So now I'd actually go into investment management companies of universities before then going into turning academic ideas into ventures. If there are any questions, if I've said anything, I think feel free to send a message in the chat section, at least even while I'm talking, so that you remember, and I'll be happy to take them on as the session goes on. So I'm going to talk about now universities and investment management companies. So investment management firms actually invest their clients' money. They choose the right selection of investments, from fast-growing, risky stocks to safe but slow-growing bonds. The aim is to achieve the return the client needs at a risky level, or at a risk level that the client is comfortable with. These investments are typically in stocks and bonds, real estate, and venture capital. The stocks and bonds, depending on the country that university's investment management company is where they would invest in stocks and bonds, typically in the country of operation where that university is, or maybe even international. And some of them would invest in real estate structures and also in venture capital. For me personally, one of the ones that we track and that we think is very, very interesting that many investment management companies of universities make is actually in the venture capital space. The revenue, and this is just to provide some context, the revenue from Harvard University's investment management company contributes more than a third of Harvard University's annual operating budget. Harvard University has an investment management company that has disbursed $35 billion to the university. So that's $35 billion. That $35 billion is just the profit element, and not everything, just a portion of the profit element that the investment management company has given to Harvard University. In various parts of Africa, we have different universities, and many of universities or higher learning or institutes of higher learning. And many of them have, I think they call them different names. So some don't call them investment management companies. Some call them ventures, you know. However, one of the differences between the venture arms of African universities and institutes in higher learning is that there's a missing element in connecting the startups that they have or the research that they have to a customer-led approach. There's a missing element in actually investing in those startups. And there's even a missing element in being able to attract endowments as well as investors into their programs to focus on various things. So again, per my understanding, and from what I have seen, and just purely on observation, there could be more of a connection. So these are some things that are missing. Some universities and institutions are doing this well, and some are struggling to do this. But again, we'll talk about this, especially in the Q&A section, where I would actually share my ideas of some of the things I think need to be done. Now, I'll talk again now more on the academic to ventures part of things. Typically, okay, I can see here. Okay, so typically, what many research institutions have is what we call the product development method or product development lifecycle. And so this chart actually shows you what usually happens in laboratories, labs. So you have a concept and plan for a product, then you spend time on product development, and then you do an alpha beta test, especially when it's lab research and all, and then you launch and ship the first version of that product or the things that you're researching about. Now, just going to talk through this process, and I'm not going to, put down the focus is not to make any, it's not to say anything is right or wrong, but the focus is really more just to make us reflect and think about things. So by that, first of all, in this product approach, where you're focusing just on academic research and the lab, and in bringing out a product, one question is, where's the customer in all of this? If you're developing a product or doing research around a theme or a product or a service, the immediate question is, where is the customer in all of this? If the customer element is missing, then automatically there is a disconnect between that research and how people would actually consume that product or that service. Another question, and as I said, I'm not saying what's right or wrong, I'm simply just going to ask questions in the academic to ventures part. Another question is, what is the founder's role, or what is the industrial, or will I even say the business role in all of this? How does, if someone has been researching, say 10 years, 20 years on a particular thing, if that thing comes to fruition, who owns the patent for that element or for that thing? Today, many universities in emerging markets, and I say this just purely as conjecture, and I don't have any data to back this up, but in my opinion, many universities and institutes of higher learning are today sitting on trillions of dollars worth of ideas that have never seen the light of day. Many students take their time to write theses, especially when they're graduating. And many of those graduating theses, and literally from all levels. So whether it is at the undergraduate level when they get their bachelor's, or if it is at the master's level, or even the PhD level, many of them, for the undergraduates, probably worse. For the masters, it's a bit better. Masters and PhDs is a bit better, because typically you then need to be peer reviewed and all that. But many of these ideas don't translate. Now, remember something, that typically businesses are there to actually solve problems. So typically, let me use a simple example. Airbnb is one of the largest accommodation providers in the world. And what Airbnb did was to match people that have accommodation. So you have a room, a spare bedroom in your house that you really don't use, or there's something that you have. And essentially Airbnb was able to match people that needed various services, or this kind of accommodation services, to people that already had those services, already had those assets, if I can call it that, and match them together and created $1 billion business out of it. And in the same way, there's a lot of research that has been done around customer attitudes, people's talents, and things like that, that are literally sitting in books, that are in storages, that are in storerooms of many universities and colleges of education, etc. So essentially, I think that I know about the foundation of OAD, and it's one that I think is laudable because it's something that is very useful. It's very useful in the sense that there are many ideas that solve problems. There's some people that will tell me a problem that they knew of 20 years ago still exists today. And sometimes I think about it, that, you know what, the solution to those problems was probably written or has probably been written and is probably sitting in some storeroom in some university somewhere around the world. Today, I've been privileged to have worked for about 20 years in business development, in structure, in fundraising, venture capital, and all. I graduated from the university. I studied accounting, and my thesis then was on 20 years plus or something like that ago. Was on fast forward 20 years. Technically speaking, I'm still working on mergers, acquisitions, because now I work in a venture capital space where people actually acquire shares or assets in organizations. Now, I did in the same relative field, but there you go. And everything I have learned, everything I am doing is being built upon the same set of things. So again, I think what I'm trying to emphasize is to link academic ideas to ventures. And I'm going to say this, not write this. It's important to do a few things. One, if you can, register a business, just as Frederick Terman encouraged his students to do. Two, is think of things not from the product development side, but from the customer development side. Because ultimately, it's a consumer or customer that needs to consume that thing. So how you frame that is very, very important. Three, and I think very key, is the ability to bring that thing and iterate through testing and discovery. We do a lot of lab work on the academic side, testing and retesting and all. Depending on what it is that you're doing, if it is possible, it'll be a good idea as well to actually get feedback, customer feedback from people. So there are many academicians here who have higher degrees than I do. So I know that you all know how to do tests and alpha, beta test, and actually getting consumer feedback much better than I do. But again, the key thing then becomes coming to the market in such a way is actually willing to consume that thing. If I go back to the very beginning, how do we create opportunities for people to turn their ventures, their academic ventures, into businesses, into ventures? How do you take your idea and turn them into things that can generate revenue? And I say a lot of times revenue or business, not necessarily because business is the it and all, but because this is actually one of the things that help with sustainability. Now, universities, if I may come here, one of the popular things that happens in many universities is that
Hello, can we still hear him?
No, I think the network is having issues at his end.
Okay.
Please, let's just be a minute or two.
Yes, I also want to come into against the connection.
Please, you can send in your questions to the chat box. Hopefully, once the network is restored, then we can proceed with our guest speaker.
Yeah, I'm gonna connect with him to confirm what's going on.
Okay. From the discussion so far, please, if you have questions, you can type them in the chat box, or you can, during the Q&A session, you can use the emoji button to raise your hand.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, please, for getting him. No, he's having network problems. Debo. Yes. Sorry, please be please just patient with us. Working hard to connect with him.
Dear customer, the MTN number you
Yes, now.
Because
And then it will be interesting.
Okay.
You know, when you have that money,
Okay. Okay, he's getting back on.
yes.
How your son?
Please
Sorry,
kindly mute
everyone.
your mic if you're not. Okay.
Yeah, sorry everyone. This is how you know I'm in an emerging country.
Please send, while you're talking, send me your PPT so that if we go up, we'll continue.
Okay. I think well, my original plan was just to talk for 30 minutes thereabouts and then take it from there. So I think I would end it here for now, and then potentially we can then take questions, continue from there, if that's okay with everyone. But again, sorry about the connection and all that. I guess it happens from time to time. Yeah, so I think I'll stop there basically so that I don't go over things again. And it'll be interesting to hear from people because I prefer hearing from people, having live examples, and then actually taking on those questions. So I guess I can start from I probably will maybe.
We're having some messages in the chat room already.
Yeah, because I missed them, because I was logged out, so I think I don't have all the chats. So Victoria, if you don't mind, maybe you could read some of the chats and then I could try to answer some of them.
Okay, let me do that.
Thanks.
The first message we have here is from Dola Adeboye. You seem to draw overview and context using universities as example. What is the narrative with polytechnics in Europe, America, Africa? More so that that's polytechnics, are more responsible for lab to product culture in terms of mandate.
Sorry, who had that question?
Dola Adeboye.
Dollar. You know what? I actually agree with you, Dollar. That's 100% right. And so you notice I was saying universities and institutes of higher learning. So yes, polytechnics, universities, colleges of education, institutes. I'm grouping all of them together into one basket, but it'd be a bit difficult for me to be repeating each one of them that way. So I think I have literally grouped institutes of higher learning or academic institutes of higher learning. So my comments really are the same. So whether it's a polytechnic, it's a university, it's an institute of higher learning, whichever one it is, it's the same thing. We need, I would say, we need to ensure that whatever lab research or whatever it is that we're doing research on also has some context of real world value. Let me give, if I may say something here. So many people don't understand why there seems to be a space race by billionaires to fire rockets and to go into orbit. And I have the chance to speak with someone who invests in companies. He calls them space companies. So he's an investor into space companies. And he made me understand certain things. He said, look, all these rockets and all these things and all these, so whether it is Jeff Bezos that was fired into space on Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos, CEO of Amazon, that was fired into space on Blue Origin, or if it is, what's his name now? Or if it is Richard Branson, who went into space on Virgin Galactic, or even Elon Musk, who would also be orbiting around the Earth. He says today, a lot of businesses, billions, if not trillions of dollars, are in the mining industry. So especially for those in Africa, a lot of the solid minerals and special minerals are on the African continent. However, if there's the opportunity to go into space, it's highly likely that mining could be done on other planets for special kind of mineral resources. So technically, even though what is being shown or what is being said is investment into space technology or rockets and things like that, there is a potential of human use via mining. So it means that very likely we could find materials that allow our phone batteries to last longer, for example. So maybe it's lithium or cobalt or some kind of special mineral or special material that helps consumers in their daily lives. So this is an example of something where the research to activity to funding doesn't seem to make sense, but there's actually a consumer-led rationale behind that. Sorry. I hope I have answered your question, Dollar. Thanks for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
As a follow-up to that, Dola said, I agree with you, sir, that academic research objectives need to start from consumer. Consumer need to laboratory experiments and not laboratory experimental objectives to consumer acceptability tests. Alas, the professors that determine the fate of students do not have such orientation. That's the strategy. So please, how do we reconcile this?
You do both. Where you have professors that focus more on what you need to on you getting a degree for getting a degree's sake, then you do that. You focus on getting your degree, right? And nothing wrong side by side with that, conducting relevant experiments for you to even bring the consumer side of things. Because the reality is that if you're able to do both, you actually even get more rounded and well-rounded. So it's fine. Follow what the professor requires or asks you to do. But in addition, do your own research as well, because it's going to be required anyways. If a professor asks you to do something, you're still going to have to do your research. So why not do your research on your side as well? So that would be my response to that.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question is from Sharon. Okay, what is the appetite for greenfield and brownfield ventures in the international ventures capital market?
Okay, so basically what you're asking is what is the investment appetite for businesses that are pretty much starting from the ground up, pretty much from idea stage. You can get investors for anything that you want to do. Ideally, investors like some level of traction to show that you know what you're doing. But then again, if you're tackling an idea that solves a major problem, people will be willing to pour in money. So I just use an example now of space technology. Technically, it's still empty, right? They haven't mined anything. They haven't brought anything. But the idea itself is, or the concept or the possibility of the idea itself is so large that people are pouring money in. Even though it's an empty, there's been no revenue on that idea. It's the same thing for self-driving cars. People have been pouring money into AI, artificial intelligence, that enables self-driving. We're probably still years away from that, but venture capital firms are willing to put money into such ideas. So it doesn't matter whether it's an existing project or something that has already been built, or if it's just an idea, you can get funding for it. A, if it's well packaged, and B, if you're able to tap into the particular problem that your idea solves. So there's a huge appetite, basically. That's my answer.
Okay, thank you so much for that feedback. Then we have a question here. How do students who are not science-based turn their ideas into investment? For example, a student who graduated from insurance department or other business-related courses.
You don't have to be a science-based student to actually solve problems. It's really more about the idea. If you think about it, I use my example. I studied accounting. I'm an accountant, but today I run a technology firm, right? I don't have to be a technology person. I have to learn, yes, but it doesn't mean that technology is only for science students. It's really just more about building a process and then digitizing that process. Let me give first of all, let me answer you because of your own experience, and then I'll give an example. There are many insurtech companies out there. Today, there's a company called Awaba. It's one of the firms that GFA is in touch with and working with. And what does this company do? It's trying to help self-employed individuals, who typically are the largest percentage of people or of employees in Africa. And so it's trying to help them get insurance. And so they're looking at a problem. They see that, hey, this problem is huge, particularly in Africa. And they're then developing something that makes it easy for people to get onto their platform and actually get insurance. And in truth, they're not the ones providing the insurance. They're simply an insurance marketplace. So they're going to aggregate all of these users, push them to specific insurance companies. And when these insurance companies take on these people, they get a commission as, insurance brokers. So that's even one that is specific, to your industry. So you don't have to be a tech company, or you don't have to be in the sciences to have something that solves problems. There are loads of problems out there. And so all you just need to do is to take a problem and then begin to find solutions to those problems. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much for that response. As a follow-up to that, I think Evelyn Ondi was saying, add to that, Elijah, monetary policy, we deal with governments directly, not individuals. So I don't think that's actually a question. Actually, we are having duplicity of names in the person of Elijah Odi. So I think it's a kind of network issue. So pardon us, it's not really Elijah Odi that's asking all this. The next question says, do you think it's important for university students to follow a course in how to start your own business, becoming an entrepreneur?
That's an interesting question. And I say interesting because it actually even affects us in GetFundedAfrica in a way. So today, so we have this venture capital. So we have GetFundedAfrica. What does GetFundedAfrica do? We match businesses and African startups with investors because there's some kind of friction. On the one hand, investors have trillions of dollars that they want to invest in startups. On the other hand, you have startups that want to get money from the investors. But there's a problem. The investors feel that the startups are not investor ready. The startups don't know what they need to do in order to get the funds from these guys that have excess funds. So there's a problem. And this is where Get Funded comes in, right? So essentially we match the investors with the right startups, and then they invest or they receive funds. The problem is some of the things that the investors need the startups to be aware of. Literally no one understands those things fully. We in GetFundedAfrica understand it, but many startups don't. And so one of the things that we ended up doing in trying to solve this problem and to matchmake is to create a course called How to Raise Venture Capital, right? And it's on a platform. We have a platform called Remzana, which we're launching next month. It's remzana.getfundedafrica.com. And basically, on this platform, you actually get the opportunity to learn the venture capital process and all. So that's why I said it's a very interesting question that you asked, because it's actually something that we're developing. Now, should universities do this? I think so, yes. So today we've developed it based on our own experience, but it'd be very nice if it was even possible to collaborate with certain, now again, I'm saying universities, but when I say universities, I mean higher learning institutions. So institutions of higher learning, it's very nice to collaborate with institutions of higher learning, because we have developed this from the customer business experiential side of things. It'll also be nice to add some of the research that some of the institutes of higher learning have done. So if there's any university or someone in a university out there that would like to collaborate with us on, on some of our education courses, we will be very, very happy to discuss with you or with the institute, so to say.
Okay.
So,
thank you so much for that. From Loretta Ofidile, what's the process of getting funds from Gateshorn Africa or GetFundedAfrica?
Yeah. So as I said, GetFundedAfrica is not we're not a VC in the conventional sense of the word, being that we don't invest directly in companies today. Today, we've decided to solve that friction between startups and investors. So what we do is our current process is we look for startups that are solving some innovative idea. And also on our website, Get Funded Africa, you can actually click there. There's a place that says raise funds, where you can actually apply, put in your pitch deck and apply for funding. So it's getfundedafrica.com. And what we would then do is to look at your company and, make a decision as to if we can actually help this particular company raise funds from investors, based on several our internal algorithms and several other factors. So basically, you can actually go to our website. I'll repeat it, getfundedafrica.com. You can click on the raise capital section of things and submit your pitch deck in there. And we'll be happy to, our fundraise team will be happy to look at it and respond to, your questions, or to take a look at it and decide if this is something that we can get investors for. One more thing on this particular subject is that there are sometimes that we see certain companies trying to solve problems. We think that the company has something there, but maybe it's not yet fully investor ready. And so sometimes we then take that company and help build on their structure and build on their business model, as well as even help them develop their pitch decks and then match them to investors. So these are some of the things that we actually do. And we would be happy to talk to you or anyone else that has a pitch deck or an idea that they think should be funded.
Okay. A question here from Ismail Adebayo. Thank you for the beautiful speech. When you're a newly graduated MSc or PhD graduate with so many ideas in you, but you don't have the capital to turn your ideas into product for the time being, how do you do that? Then if such an individual happens, second part of the question, then if such an individual happens to be in Nigeria, a country currently undergoing high inflation right now, it might be tragic to get loans to start something. What should such a person do at this time?
I've had this question and I get this thrown at me a lot. And it's a valid question. And there are two parts to my response. The first part is that many people think that they need money to implement an idea. That is true. However, ideas don't come after you have money. Money actually chases ideas. Remember, I said something that there's more money out there than there are companies and ideas. There's actually more money out there. So the money is chasing the idea. So if you are a fresh graduate, master's or PhD or whatever it is, the first thing is to look for a problem and solve that problem based on your skills. I had this conversation as well, one-on-one with someone recently who said, what can I do? And I essentially said, what are your ideas? Or what problems do you want to focus on? And so he told me some of the problems that he has seen based on the research he has done. And then we were then able to take those problems and then proffer solutions to those problems. And then once he had his ideas, it was now, okay, write down these ideas and how you intend to solve it. And then literally that then began a journey that led today into a company that plans to use renewable energy, how do I call it? That plans to use water to solve the energy problems on the African continent. And this company is now in the process of fundraising. So it's really more about what is the problem that you want to solve? When you have a problem that you want to solve, then create ideas that you think can help solve that problem. And then you can then raise venture capital. A comment on venture capital briefly is that venture capital is sometimes referred to as patient capital. It's said to be patient capital because if your idea solves a problem, people are willing to invest in that profit solution, knowing fully well that what you originally start out as may not be what you end up with. There's an example of there's so many examples. Instagram, that we all know today, if memory serves me correctly, and I'll double check this later, but I think started out as a photo printing service. And because it didn't work, they iterated and pivoted to become what we now know as Instagram, a video sharing platform. So the beauty of venture capital is that it actually gives you that time, that runway to iterate, to make mistakes, to develop something that the customers are willing to take on. So don't be afraid to start. Start with the idea. So don't look for money before you start your idea. Start with your idea. Put it down on paper. Think about it. Get some level of traction and ask questions, right? And then funds will flow in. That's the way it's done. So the second part of the question about inflation, and you talked about Nigeria, I want to just, I agree with you. There is inflation, but the reality is that it's not a Nigerian thing. It's an emerging market thing. It's the same thing in Bangladesh. It's the same thing in Indonesia. You're not unique. There's nothing special about that in Nigeria. It's the same thing in most countries, in most emerging markets, right? That's why they're emerging markets. But the reality as well is that because you have many of these problems, it means that there are many opportunities. There's a lot of venture capital flowing into emerging markets today because in the West, so to say, or in established economies, you can only do things on an incremental basis. But in emerging markets, in Africa, you can do things not just on an incremental basis, but on rapidly expanding basis. We have companies that have grown 1,200% over a 2-year period. There's a medtech company that we recently helped raise over $1.2 million, and they have grown about 2,000% over a 3-year period, right? These kind of growth rates are difficult and hard to come by in Western countries. So yes, there's high inflation, but then it also, the flip side is that there are higher growth rates in emerging markets than in established ones. And that whole problem is not a Nigerian thing. It's not unique to Nigeria. It's across Africa. It's across Latin America. It's across Southeast Asia. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Adebola. I think the questions are just coming in and in and in. Actually, our program was scheduled for just 1 hour. Okay. And we are right on time, but the questions are just coming. So
we can extend, maybe, if it's okay with most people, we can extend maybe by just 10-15 minutes.
Okay, please, is that okay by us? You can give us a thumbs up, then let's know we can proceed just for the next 10-15 minutes as suggested. Okay, thank you so much for the responses. So the next question there is, how can I attract or get investors, in bracket, angel investors? I and my partner, we have a new product that is unique and beautiful in its making. How can we be assisted to assess such information or people?
Okay. I'll be quick on this. Create a pitch deck, something that summarizes what you do, something that is maybe on PPT, 10 to 15 slides, and send it to Get Funded Africa. Go to our website and submit that pitch deck, and we'll be happy to take a look at it. And
Okay.
That will be fine.
Sorry. Where is that coming from? Okay. So continue with the questions now.
Yes, please.
Pardon me. Okay, we've answered. That was for Linda. And then Andrew Sanu said, will Get Funded Africa be willing to mentor a non-compliant applicant or application through to success? If yes, how does it go about it?
Okay, so one of the things that we also realized, we've literally had to create an ecosystem. So yes, one of the things we're now trying to do is actually to create a mentorship section. We're still in early stages of this, but this is something that we're actually developing. So on our website, you would see, and we launched, as I said, we launched a mentorship program, and we had about, I'm trying to remember the exact number, I think about 12 startups go through that process of mentorship. And this is something that we think is very important in guiding companies or academics in that transition of creating ventures. So on our website, getfundedafrica.com, there's a mentorship section. So please feel free to actually put in, go to that section and put in your information, and we'll be happy to get back to you.
Okay, thank you for that feedback. Somebody wants to know, is Get Funded Africa for diaspora Africans, non-born on the mainland, like Caribbean Blacks or African Americans? Like, is it for everybody? Or is just for Africans?
It's so we originally wanted to do it for Africa, or rather for companies that have an operation in Africa, irrespective of where the person is from. And it's pretty much that way, but we've also now had to factor in people of, as you said, Caribbean heritage and all. So as long as the operations are in Africa or the Caribbean, then this is something that we will be happy to work with the startup or the venture in helping them to get funding.
Okay, then another one coming on says, does Get Funded Africa give money for PhD students, researchers? This one is close to home.
Yeah, so we, as I said, we're not an investment firm. We're a technology firm that matches both sides. So we solve that friction of investors and startups. Now, whether you're a PhD holder or not PhD, or whether you're a PhD holder, if you have a venture that you've created that you think will add value and solve a problem, this is something that we would be happy to work with you on. Generally speaking, and I say generally speaking, we typically work with companies that are trying to raise anything from $500,000 USD to about 12 million USD, generally speaking. But if it's a problem that we see that there's a huge potential in that industry, or that problem, or that your idea can solve a big problem, we would actually still reach out and say, hey, you know what, you've got something going here, so let's take a second look at it and see how we can work with you. So again, we're willing to accept all pitch decks, and I think the link of the company has been shared in the chat box, getfundedafrica.com. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Debo. Another one from Sharon, he says, is it then correct?
I was going to say, not Dr. Debo. That sounds very interesting. So
thank you
you've promoted me more than.
We're going there. So the question from Sharon says, is it then correct to say you are a funding facilitator and not traditional VC? At what stage then is due diligence on the project done? Do you do it, or is it only done by the potential funder you would have linked the business with? The reason for my question is mainly of, in quotes, easing the concerns of concept theft. When the process of due diligence is long and exchanges many hands, and exchanges, many hands can make some entrepreneurs feel uneasy. That's what we are.
Olawale, maybe you might need to Olawale Oladoye. I need to mute.
I'm doing that.
Okay.
I've muted him.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thanks for that question, Sharon. And I'm going to say something now that some people may not like. Ideas are 2 for 1 pence. If your idea can be easily stolen, then maybe it's not a unique idea, really. Ideas are cheap. What has value is execution. So if your idea can be easily stolen, first of all, then maybe your idea is not so great. Because lots and lots and lots and lots of people have ideas, and you'll be shocked how some of those ideas are even similar. So for us, for example, sometimes we receive pitch decks. Sometimes we receive pitch decks, and some of the pitch decks are coming from 2 different countries, right? So it then becomes, and then the ideas are so similar, it could almost be that the same person wrote it. But then when you make inquiries, there are 2 different people on 2 different countries, in fact, different sides of a continent, and they had similar ideas, trying to tackle the same thing. So in response, first of all, if your idea is that easy to steal, maybe it's not a good idea to start off with. But part of the answer is also, as I said, it's really more around execution. And so then to the question itself, are we a funding facilitator? Yes, that's pretty much what we are. We are a, think of us as an angel list and Netflix bundled into one. Well, Netflix for business, bundled into one. So we're a technology firm. We've digitized the entire process. I mean, think about it. Those that want to apply, we're saying go to the website, go to this site, go to this site. So we've digitized the entire process around fundraising. Well, not the entire process, but a lot of it around fundraising. And then we then match with investors, right? So we're not a traditional VC, but I'll use your words, a funding facilitator. The words we use, we say we're a fundraising as a service provider. But then at what stage is due diligence done? And I have overshot a bit. This is what we do internally. We have several algorithms that actually take your data, and we review certain things and decide within a matter of days if this is a company that we want to take things forward with. If not, then sometimes we would then say, well, you have something going. Either take one of our courses that might help you get where you want to get to, or let's find you a mentor or work with you in some way to actually help you to achieve your aims and your goal. So in terms of that, as I said, what you said, the reason is mainly in the content, and then you also spoke about due diligence. So yes, we do a lot of due diligence. For us, our due diligence approach is industry-based first, and then the company itself. So we'll look more at your industry, above and beyond even your company. And then we'll then come to your company, and then we'll do a lot of analysis and all that, and then decide whether to take this up or not. And then, you know, what you talked about in terms of exchanges and all that, fundraising is not easy. I will not, let me not use a bad word, but it's not an easy thing to do. It takes time, and that matchmaking service, we've been able to generate data, and so we've made it faster. But the typical time to fundraise for an African company from idea stage to money in the bank is typically about 18 months. We have been able to do this now on a continuous basis in roughly about 6 months, and we're working to even cut that time even shorter. Our target is about 3 months. But again, this is for those that work through us. But if you're doing it directly yourself, it can take as much as 18 months, right? 18, 1-8. Yeah, let's go ahead.
Thank you so much for those responses. So we'll just take the last two questions and then wrap up. From Honorede Godwin, it says, in the African ecosystem space, where there seems to be a disconnect between the researchers and industries that will develop or commercialize the product, how do we link the need of the firms to researchers?
So it goes back to what I said in the very beginning, begin to develop customer-centric products and services. So use the customer, involve the customer. And so rather than a product-led approach, use a customer-led approach.
Okay, thank you for that. Then Evelyn said, does someone have to register their ideas before sending to you? How do you manage confidentiality of ideas when selected for funds or not?
On our platform already, there's a confidentiality note. We don't, so we're not business, we are a fundraising as a service platform. So we don't, there's no way for us to take your idea and start a business by the side, right? So we have full confidentiality once you submit your pitch deck with us. And we reach out to you, if we do decide to go forward, we'll reach out to you and let you know. We try, and in truth, it's not something that we've been able to keep up with. We try to make sure that we respond to everyone individually, even when we don't take the projects forward. However, because of the massive number of requests that we get, it's very, 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 very difficult to respond to everyone, and we apologize in advance if you don't get an immediate response.
Okay, I think the question from Team 6 here, it's been answered kind of, so please just check the website link they provided. Then, do we need to pay or register for your mentorship? That's from Event 3.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not paid for. It's free because the mentors typically need their time. They typically work in Fortune 500 firms. We have a few mentors from Microsoft and several other firms like that. So it's free. So it's not something that is paid for. That's on that question. I know that there's also a question on cost of funding for funders. I should say we typically do equity, not debt. So the cost of funding is not like a percentage of how much is raised. No. We help companies, technically speaking, when you have an idea and you set up a company, that company has shares. So when an investor invests in that company, they would buy a percentage of your business. So it could be 1%, it could be 10%, it could be 20% of your business. So they give you money in exchange for 20% of your business. And then they work with you to actually grow your company. That's typically how it works. Is there a cost associated with that? Yes, the cost is you're giving up part ownership of your business. So for startups, typically it's more of equity. So it's not debt, it's not mezzanine, right? It's equity most of the time. We sometimes do debt, but that's usually for more mature companies that are maybe trying to raise $20 million, $50 million, $100 million, right? And not for startups.
I think the last question there is that, is there ever an exit strategy considered by the funders you deal with?
All the time. So why is an investor putting money in your firm? It is to also create wealth for them. If you think about it, Facebook, Peter Thiel, the co-founder of PayPal, invested $500,000 in Facebook when Facebook was running around and still looking for money, right? By the time Facebook came to the market in an initial public offer or IPO, his $500,000 investment was worth $1.2 billion. That's literally what investors are looking for. They want to make sure that your company can grow, which is why they look at the problem above and beyond. What is the problem that you're trying to solve, and how big is that problem? and then they would invest in the company, hoping that your solution can tackle that problem, and by extension, you can grow very quickly.
Okay. Thank you so much. I don't know how to do that. You've done a great job. Thank you so much. I think we basically trashed almost all the questions that came in. Please, on the chat box, the website is there. And Dr. Debo, let me still put that, doctor. Please, we'll need your contact information. Many persons are interested in getting more information about GetFundedAfrica and how they can connect with you. I think Ria is asking for mentorship, and we are many. I'm also part of that list. So yeah, please.
I've shared my email.
Okay.
Debo at GetFundedAfrica, and I'm going to also share. I believe he's here. I'm also going to share the email of my co-founder. Okay. You know, I cannot do this alone. And we currently have a team currently of around 12 people. And we're even at that, we're stretched a lot of times. And so my co-founder as well, Mr. Tunjioke, I'm going to share his email as well. And he's also, like me, very developmental person. And so we'll be happy to actually hear from you and answer some of your questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Once again, we appreciate you for the time and the insightful discussion, because it's not just a lecture, we've had a discussion throughout. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you, Dr. Debo, again. And we look forward to seeing you in our future events. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, and have enjoy the rest of your nights, enjoy the rest of your afternoon and morning, depending on where you're. God bless everyone. Bye.
Amen.
Don't buy yet. To hang around.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Ledger, please, you can come up now.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Dr. Debo, we have baptized you with with a doctorate degree. And we are really very much, of course, we know that if you wanted a PhD, you'll have got it. So so we look at you that way, just like one of our speakers the last time as well, who did so much justice to what we brought to the table, Sharon. We also gave her the degree. She has been in the event as well today and has asked very beautiful questions. So we are really very much excited having you on board and having been able to give us all these value. And of course, as we've discussed with you previously, OAD has a very long-term vision, and we know exactly where to get the solution. And we know the extent of resources available at GetFundedAfrica. And since it's all about Africa, we are very confident that we can move very speedily, having strong arrangements as the years unfold and to support one another. So we're very much excited to have heard the great passion you expressed and the very practical aspects of it. So, of course, you're going to see a difference of traffic to your website. Yeah, so let's keep watching and seeing what's going to unfold in the years ahead. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have seen that there is no longer a reason for anybody not to think about starting a business. This is what Africa needs now. This is the time that Africa needs to break into that space to get the job that needs to be done. Around the world, this is happening. We have heard again and again, Africa constantly exporting raw materials. So this is the time, and many of us are doing research around those raw materials. So even if the governments are not willing to drive or are not disposed to drive development of those, GetFundedAfrica is here, a pool full of venture capitals. And all you have to do is make sure that you have developed it, your ideas well in such a way that it can be financed. And if it's not ready, also no problems. You get to hook up with the investor readiness arrangements which you'll be able to explore when you get on the website and other things around it. So please spread the word. We are not just talking about those who are currently in this meeting. This is a message that we must take back to our communities back in Africa. Young people across Africa, millions of them are roaming around the streets, and some involved in one crime or the other. But actually they have something, they are seeing problems around them. And in fact, they themselves are problems, which could become business, a business idea. So let's open our eyes, spread the message around our communities using your social capital, because having got a PhD, you have a huge social capital, which you need to convert to something more than teaching in a university or doing some research, publishing papers, which may just end on the internet. And business people like Dr. Adebola will pick that information, use it to make money, and they'll clap for you. Journals will also pick it up. They sell it to them, they make their own money, and you just end up having sleepless nights. I know many of us Africans, we have extreme high-level sleepless nights, doing a PhD, publishing papers, and all of that. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to a point where that story has to change. The narrative is changing. OAD is here to push it. And so we have no excuse not to present something better to our generations coming, our children who are coming ahead of us. We need to guide them properly in a different direction. So in order not to take more of our time, I'll be requesting Dr. Adebola subsequently to, to give us another day that will be dedicated to question and answers only. Because there'll be no talking. We just come and start question and answers. Everybody will ask, and then we explore, and also possibly some hands-on. I've experienced his hands-on session, and hopefully, of course, he is just one person, and so hopefully, by the time we see the quality that is in it, maybe some people could even go ahead to arrange some paid services to help them develop their ideas further beyond what's done on the group, because indeed it's not something that can just be finished up in one sitting. So thank you very much, everyone, for being part of this, and keep the word. Encourage people on the groups subsequently, because we are not going to stop this conversation. It's going to keep unfolding. On 5th of October, we're going to have another one. So prepare yourself. We're going to have 2 more sessions, hopefully in October. And November, every month, we're going to be having something. So please be on the lookout. And we're going to be bringing quality people just like Debo, like Rubén, like Sharon, like Dr. Fodile, who also did some beautiful stuff and has been part of us. So please, thank you very much for being part of today. Thanks to the moderators, thanks to the leadership of OAD, thanks to the leadership of Zimbabwe Young Academy of Sciences, thanks to the Shanghai Mingde Institute of Learning Organizations, thanks to People Made Solutions Group, thanks to Next Level Education Foundation International. We are really grateful. We're moving to the next level, and beautiful things will keep happening in Africa and everywhere we are part of. So congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, as we bring the meeting to a close, and do have a wonderful night rest as we keep making progress. The platform is open for everyone. You may hang around, converse with one another, and the conversations continue. I don't know if anybody would like to say something before we just close it. Dr. Adebola.
Philomena has her hands up for a while now. Philomena Nwokolo.
Right.
Philomena, are you there? Do you have something for us?
You may unmute yourself. She's still muted.
I'm sending the request.
Hello, everyone.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, yes, we can hear
you.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are, all around the globe. Just to say thank you to all the presenters. I had a wonderful time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
You see, Dr. Adebola, you had to wait to receive this.
Then from Dr. Loretta, we also have a hands up.
Okay. Yeah, please, Dr. Loretta.
Yes, ma, you can come on.
Unmute yourself. You are still muted. You're still
Dr.
muted.
Loretta, please unmute your mic. Okay, I think we just lost that. Okay, so please, do we still go ahead with the headshots, Dr. Elijah?
Yes, please.
We're having so many hands up now. It's getting interesting. Okay, please. So if you crave your indulgence, you can put on your camera. Let's get to know ourselves better as we take a headshot to concrete the meeting for this day. So please, you can open up your videos. Let's see the lovely faces from all over the world that's been able to make it for the paper to product initiative part 2.
Can you see my face, Victoria?
No, sir. I'm seeing a black screen.
Interesting.
Yes, I've just seen Philomena. That's wonderful.
Can you see mine?
Can you? Okay.
Oh, yeah, I've seen Dr. Ifoma. I've seen Unisa. I've seen Miss Sharon. It's lovely. Oh my God, what did you do?
Hi, Victoria.
I've seen Samaila, Tim Sticks, Nubis. Okay, it's wonderful. Helen, Perpetual, we're still waiting for us. Anjorin Sanu, I've seen you there.
I'm seeing a chief, Mwakama.
Okay. Yeah, Mwakama, pardon us, please.
Victoria, you must mention my name.
Linda, your name is participant 10, Dr. Samaila. I've seen participant 2. Okay, so please just keep the smile on. Let me try to take it.
With Mwakama's smile, we are covered.
Okay, you're coming. Who is giving us? Okay, Manuela, no problem. You're using desktop, not camera. So please, can we smile cheese or suya or I don't know what to say.
Get funded, Africa.
Unfortunately, I can't get your photo.
Thank you.
I don't know what's happening from your end.
I must be close to Elijah.
I can see Dr. Elijah's photo from here.
You know, about 10 people logged in with Elijah Oji. I don't know how that happened. So I had to change their name to participant 1, 2.
First, open your camera.
Okay.
Boss said, open your camera.
So please, if somebody, you can tell them to open their camera. Only half of the persons here, their cameras are open. I'm just taking the screenshots. But it's getting wonderful and it's getting better. So thank you so much, everybody, for the cooperation.
Thank you.
We are not done yet. The narrative is just starting. Just starting.
Again, I changed my name now.
Thank you. Thank you.
So please, you can interact with yourselves. But for today's program, we've officially come to the end of tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Victoria.
They will give them between 20 and 40.
Miss Sharon, I'm looking for you. I can't find her.
Okay, it seems like she's gone already.
Dr. Victoria.
Sister Victoria is gone.
Oh, I think she's still here.
Thank you, Dr. Adu.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
We're grateful. We're happy to be part of it.
Thank you, Dr. Fodile.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Fodile. Thank you very much. You've done a great job.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Do have a wonderful time.
Goodbye.
Happy to see your face. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Evelyn, now that the thing is over, you are the thing has allowed you to stay on. It's no longer logging you out.
Thank you. Me also, I'm saying bye.
Bye. Right. It's great. It's great. Yeah. Samila, good job. Good job. Good job. Thank you for the work you did in the afternoon.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. I should really want to thank you, sir, for the opportunity, sir.
It's great. We're happy to be part of it and working together to make it work.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you for all your effort.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Very happy to be with all of you. And of course, you know, with the support flowing around, yeah, we can only continue doing better.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.